Hi, it's 23rd day of Russia's war against Ukraine, and I'm writing this update from Kyiv, the capital city that has been besieged by Russian troops but still stands on. The life carries on, and the life is back on streets of Kyiv. Some cafes and small businesses are opening. It is now possible to buy at least some vegetables on the street, just directly from people. Still, the traffic is really small. Streets are almost empty. The streets are full with the checkpoints, and traveling around the city is a challenge. But in spite of all of this, we stand strong. We're still tackling Russian aggression, and Ukraine even managed to pull back Russian forces from Kyiv border to a significant distance. But despite of this, we still can hear sounds, and the background noise in Kyiv, it's the mixture of air raid sirens, and explosions. Meanwhile, it is definitely much better than in Mariupol, because Mariupol was almost exterminated by Russian forces. Russia bombarded that city where I spent 2 years of my life, and I have lots of friends. It was really hard for me for the past few days to write an update because I was following the situation closely, and the amount of evil things performed by Russian occupants was just enormous. And I could hardly even find the language to describe or to analyze or to find reasons for bombardment of a maternity hospital or city theater. Lots of people who got out from the city describe this in terms of just total apocalypse, that there is no water, no mobile cell telephone connection, no food, no medical care. The information about mass graves proved to be right and correct. And people who managed to escape made their way with lots of stops through the numerous Russian checkpoints. Russians were very severe to the civilians. They were checking their telephones, searching their profiles on social networks. They were taking some cars out of people, if these were, for instance, corporate cars or lorries or trucks or jeeps. So I have friends who lost their relatives, or I have friends either who have no information about their beloved people and just couldn't reach them because it is impossible. It's absolutely disgusting feeling of helplessness where you sit in a city and cannot do absolutely nothing in order to help to the people whom you know and love. I think that Mariupol, it's unfortunately not the last stop, definitely not the last stop of this war. And when such horrible events happened, people, start to question issues of war and peace. They want to find ways to stop the bloodshed, and there are actually two approaches to that. The first one is to freeze the conflict, to stop it, to implement ceasefire. And that was the thing that happened to us in 2014 when Russia was advancing on Ukrainian territory. And of course, mainly on Donbas region, Russians were not touching Kyiv at that time. But what we've learned from 2014 is when you freeze this conflict, it will emerge again. Because the goals of the other side, Russia in our particular case, is not to save lives or stop bloodshed, but it's quite an opposite, to carry on bloodshed in order to scare people and make them to surrender. And that's the goal of Kremlin, which was stressed by Vladimir Putin numerous amount of times already, that he wants to denazify, demilitarize Ukraine. And what he means by that is just continuous killing of people who just don't agree with it, who just want to live on their own land and don't want to see any aggressors here. Another approach is in the terms win-lose, when you know that you have to bring the conflict to the certain point either win it or lose it, because otherwise you will have more solid peace. And it's extremely hard to choose between these two approaches when it comes to peace talks, for instance, because I don't have any hope for the peace talks, because Russia doesn't have any will to stop this war, and it only turns Ukrainian population wants to either bring it to some certainty. We want to win. We want to repel Russians, because otherwise we will just not explain it to those who already died. If we surrender, it means that all their lives were just given away for nothing. And maybe that's the reason why the vast majority of Ukrainians, we have polls here almost every week, support President Zelensky and really believe that we can repel and tackle Russian aggression. And this optimism, it's extremely hard feeling, because on the other hand, you have Mariupol, you have Kharkiv, Sumy, Akhtirka, and other cities and towns that were severely damaged. But still, Ukrainian nation stands strong. We're not scared, and we carry on our fight. And it is important now for the entire international community also to start to think about these two choices: either freezing conflict and getting back normal to business, or fighting, and fighting without any uncertainty whether you can win it or lose. And the truth is that freezing, unfortunately, doesn't work with Vladimir Putin, Russia. They won the war, and the earlier people in the West will acknowledge this and make a kind of reaction, the more lives in the future would be saved.